What's going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. It is time now for the Tuesday edition of the Pandemic Update for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. Here we are once again. We did a Walgreens update this morning. We had to do that separate because there's a lot of things for me to show you in the pandemic update today. If we had put both together, it would have been a really long video. So if you didn't get a chance to see the Walgreens, or maybe you want to check it out, it's the video just before this one. First off, if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. Thanks for checking this out. This is where we do the daily pandemic update. Yes, that pandemic. COVID is still a real issue, and there's a lot of other viruses out there as well that are a threat to you, and this is where I bring awareness and let you know what's going on. We start off today with multiple new COVID positives to report on. First off, Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who is 66 years old, has tested positive for COVID yet again. This is the third time he has tested positive. He tested positive for COVID on Monday, December 5th of this year. And I believe his previous case, or the one before this, was in 2021. And I do know he was one of the original people to test positive in the political world. One of the first political people to test positive back at the start of the pandemic, back in 2020. So, once again, that's the Philippines president who is yet again tested positive for COVID. Then we have Christine Lagarde, who has tested positive for COVID. She is the European Central Bank president, and she had to begin her speech in Paris by explaining that she couldn't appear in person after testing positive for COVID-19 over the weekend. Here's a picture of her right here, and it doesn't stop there. Then we have Minister for Manpower. This is in Singapore? Yeah, Singapore. Tan C. Lang tested positive for COVID-19, and I seem to recall he tested positive for COVID one time before. I don't think this is the first time I've reported on this or tweeted on him testing positive for COVID. I'll try and look that up. And if I find that he had a previous case, when I put it into my archive on my website, I will add the date of his previous case or the month and year if I can find it. Moving on to this, and this is not good. Mike Horger says that the U.S. surge is worsening faster than anticipated, than what he anticipated. Remember, there's a couple different people out there that do COVID modeling, and he said today, meaning yesterday, 1.2 million daily infections. 1 in 38 people are infectious. That's up by 2.6%. In 4 weeks, New Year's Day, 1.8 million daily infections. And 1 in 26 people will be infectious, 3.9% increase. And you can see it here on the chart. It's rapidly going up now. We're in a wave now. Now, some may be able to say, well, it's not as worse as it was last year at this point. And in some places, yes, the hospitalization number is not as bad as it was last year at this point. And you'll see that on New York State in just a little bit. But here's the problem. It's rapidly going up. So when you have a rapid rise, the risk of you getting infected is pretty high. It's not good. It's not good to see things rapidly rising, and your chance of getting infected, it's there. It increases significantly for as long as the cases and hospitalizations are rising. Speaking of rising, I mentioned earlier today on that Walgreens video that we had something about Utah, where we weren't seeing matching data from Walgreens compared to this news story right here. Utah Health Department warns of rising COVID cases detected in wastewater samples. Salt Lake City, Utah. The Utah Department of Health's wastewater samples show COVID cases are on the rise across Utah. While the increase isn't sudden, they said there's a reason to take the data seriously. So they're actually telling people to take it seriously. It's nice to actually see that. And it says we often see this sort of trend around this time with also a lot of other respiratory pathogens. And of course, yes, everything is rising right now, and Utah is taking note of it. And we showed you on, I believe it was Sunday, the wastewater update that there's a lot of coloring starting to show up on the CDC map, and I can show you that in just a moment. Let's continue on here. 16 cases of mystery illness dogs now found in Washington. That's right. Remember that mystery illness? Now it's starting to show up in Washington as well. So this is not good. It's really spreading everywhere, and this is Washington State, by the way. Moving on to this now, and I thought this was interesting to share. I'm not going to tell you the names of the hospitals or anything, but this is in Montreal. 5 Montreal emergency rooms, again, 5, are filled to more than 200% capacity on yesterday morning. That's just really bad. So there were 5 hospitals up there. I'm not familiar with all the hospitals of that area, but hey, I thought this was interesting to share, that they had 5 hospitals that are reporting a big increase in emergency department visits. In fact, their emergency departments are just flowing over capacity at this point. You would have to think people are probably waiting in hallways. Not good. Meanwhile, they tell us the pandemic's over. Just a combination of all the virus right now alone, all the viruses out there alone, that's a pandemic within itself. Small study finds brain alterations after COVID Omicron infection. We've known about this for a while. COVID can impact your brain. Someone who may be dealing with early stages of Alzheimer's tests positive for COVID. Guess what happens? It accelerates Alzheimer's. It just works that way. So it's something that is concerning, and it's happening to people of all ages with this brain problems. We're seeing some stories out there, some random stories pop up from time to time of people having brain issues post-COVID, or likely post-COVID, at younger ages. So it's something to take seriously. All right, moving on to this final news story of the day. Chronic wasting disease detected in new part of Utah. That's right, Utah is now detecting more chronic wasting disease. It's something that's becoming a problem in many states across the country. It's a problem here in my state. Here in the state of Pennsylvania, I do have a deer hunter in the family. My dad's a deer hunter. I'll be honest with you. I'm leery to eat the meat. I really am. I am leery to eat the meat. The area that he got his from is right in a and maybe I would never personally harm an animal, but I'm just trying to prove a point here about how bad this is. The area that he got it from is borderline, literally across the road. That's chronic wasting territory. So if you're someone that likes to eat game meat, and it's an area that's potentially chronic wasting disease, I know there's been no human cases. I'm just leery of it, and I'm concerned. Will this one day become something that becomes deer to human transfer? Hasn't happened yet, but you know what? I'm concerned at some point that may become an issue because it's really starting to spread. And I can just tell you, I know from the grapevine, there's places out there that are supposed to be checking for chronic wasting when a hunter brings in a deer, and they're not doing it. They're not following through with protocols in some of these states. And because of that, this is going to continue to spread, and it's something that's going to become worse. This isn't the last time we're going to be discussing this. I actually have a section on my site, datareport.info, where I am archiving chronic wasting disease reports and stuff like this. Alright, moving on now. We have to talk about heat-related illnesses. Not that many left, but look at Florida. It's still a thing down in Florida. So if you live in Florida, be careful. Don't know why there's still coloring showing up in the Chicago area. Doesn't make any sense to me. It's actually colder there now, so not really understanding what that's all about. Let's take a look at the latest air quality data, and you can see air quality here in the West Coast. It's still a problem because it's chimney, it's fireplace season, and in the Midwest as well, in the Great Lakes, fireplace season once again. If you did not see the Walgreens update earlier, I will tell you what the national positivity is. It's 28.7%. Prior week was 28.5%. Difference of up 0.2%. 18,000 tests this week. Yes, testing actually went upward. That's a good thing. All right, I just want to show you something real quickly here. Let's come down here to Utah. Remember we talked about Utah a few minutes ago? Yeah, look at the orange and red wastewater sites. Utah has a lot of rising wastewater sites at this time, so it's legitimate. Utah is rising, even though when we come back here to Walgreens, it says it's dropping. Yeah, there was a testing increase. Maybe that's what caused the drop. But overall, cases of COVID in Utah are going up. All right, moving on now. We have to talk about the latest COVID variants. And let's do that, shall we? The latest variants of COVID are HV.1 at 31.7%, EG.5 at 13.1%, BA2.86 is at 8.8%. I'm hearing JN.1 may enter the picture later this week. We'll have to see if that actually happens. In the hospital, 19,444 in the United States. And speaking of hospital situations, let's come to Philadelphia. 855 EMS incidents yesterday in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's high. We've had back-to-back weeks of at-home Philadelphia Eagles football games that draws big crowds. People go tailgating. It's not good. Although this past weekend, maybe there wasn't so much tailgating. It rained. Then we had Thanksgiving, so that's into the picture. I mean, it's just a perfect storm. And it's just not here. It's all around the country. It's a perfect storm right now for cases to go up. The NFL playoffs, they're just about a month away. So people are going to go to bars. I mean, yeah, cases are going to continue to rise everywhere, as are EMS incidents. Let's do a live look in with the Philadelphia suburbs. You can see here in Montgomery County, there's some calls right now. I'm seeing respiratory calls, 13 calls. That's quite a few. Chester County, I'm seeing heart problem calls, respiratory difficulties, sick people. It's just not good. New Jersey, crossing the Delaware River. Look at this. 69 out of 70 hospitals reporting. 638 hospitalizations, 13 people on a ventilator, 66 people in the ICU. And then finally, let's take a look at discharges. 70 discharges. I guess that's good, but the volume of patients, it's going up. So when the whole volume's going up, the level of discharges is going to increase as well. New York State reported 1,681 new positive COVID cases. Yeah, not good. But again, it's lower than I believe the previous update, and now this is really bad. New York State last week ended the week with 1,425 people in the hospital. They start the new week with 1,599. Yep, a big increase, but we can zoom this out. We can go back to last year at this time, because I want to do that. I'm going to go that route. And let's zoom in a little bit further. Here we go, right here. Let's go back to last year at this time. So currently, once again, it's 1,599. Last year, around this time, they had over 3,000 people in the hospital. Now, it's not as high as last year, but again, it's a rapid rise. So you may think, oh, well, it's not as high as last year. Fine, don't go by that. It's rapidly rising right now. The number of infectious people that you may encounter is increasing. The chances of you getting infected is increasing. That's what counts. That's what matters. People are still being hospitalized. People are still dying of COVID every week. That's what matters most. And you know what? Who's to say this rapid rise doesn't just continue straight on through January, or even pick up the pace as we get closer to Christmas and get as high as these levels? It's possible. At the very minimum, it's going to go over 2,000 in New York State. And we can take a look at New York City. New York City is rising as well. You can see here. It's rising. And this is the case across the majority of the country right now. Just because things aren't as high as last year doesn't mean you will not encounter more infected people with COVID, flu, RSV, maybe the random tuberculosis case, pneumonia, anything, all these respiratory viruses that are out there, and even viruses, that are on surfaces, such as norovirus. It's a problem right now. It's spreading. You need to be vigilant. You need to be careful. You need to mask when you're out in public. You just need to do that. Alrighty, folks, that does it for today's pandemic update. But before we end our update, I do have one little personal note. I actually got approval from insurance. I think I mentioned this before. I'm going to be getting these injections for my breathing problems. You may hear it sometimes during the pandemic update. It sounds like I'm short of breath. Well, I've been approved for these injections. The first one's going to be next week. I think it's going to happen every 4 weeks. I don't know. It's going to be next Tuesday. So next Tuesday at this time, I'll be in the injection place. We'll see what happens. I'm not happy that I'm doing this in the middle of the winter surge, but you know what? It needs to be done rather sooner than later. I'm not going to delay it, so it just needs to be done. Don't worry. I will take precautions. Again, that is next week. And of course, I will update you guys on how that goes. Alrighty, if you enjoyed this update, by all means, give it a thumbs up down below. If you learned anything from this and you're new to the channel, subscribe to my channel down below. I want to help keep you and your family and loved ones safe. And if you know anyone that needs to see these videos, by all means, share this with them and tell them to subscribe to my channel. If you got a comment, maybe you want to say something about today's update. I always love reading your comments. Someone earlier gave me an update on last week's Michigan numbers. I wanted to include this week, but Michigan did not update yet. Hopefully, maybe later in the day they will, and I will tweet that out. You can always follow me on Twitter at COVID Data Report. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Data Report, and you can become a member of my website. It's free. datareport.info. Chime in, start a topic, start a thread. Add something to a thread that you want to. By all means, once again, datareport.info. I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another pandemic update. Don't know if it's going to be an out in the wild one or a data-filled one here at home. We'll just see how the day goes tomorrow. I will see you all tomorrow. But until I see you again tomorrow, stay safe, everyone, and I will see you all again next time. Thanks for watching.